Hey, everybody. How's it going? It's divisional playoff week, they tell me. That's a big deal. And I agree. And I'm sending a tweet out while I'm saying this, so bear with me a minute. Hope everyone's doing well. See if I can attract a crowd here today. What a crazy Super Wild Card week, eh? How about those Jaguars? How about that? Like a lot of interesting things went on this weekend. I thought it was a fantastic week of football. Love seeing it. Uh, Great stuff. We head into this weekend with the some fantastic games now for us to work on this week. So we'll kind of work through those a little bit, maybe talk a little news, maybe talk a little disappointing outcomes of players if we have time. I'll give everyone a chance to come in, but y'all know what we're looking at this week. Uh, it's a 4-game slate. Two on Saturday, two on Sunday. We've got the Jaguars and Chiefs, the early Saturday afternoon game. Injury issues are pretty minimal here. Trevor Lawrence, working with the same issue he's been working through, the toe injury, hasn't been a problem for him. Certainly wasn't a limiting factor against the Chargers in the second half. Kansas City, Mecole Hardman looks like he will not play in this game. Still can't quite get himself on track, it seems. Clyde Edwards-Helaire could have returned. He is practicing this week. Everyone else is practicing for the Chiefs this week. Certainly, all the players we're interested in. There's maybe some minor defensive issues. The injury report available, by the way, the full injury report on footballdiehards.com. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and look there. The Giants, Isaiah Hodgins, the only skill player on their injury report this week. Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts. That's the Saturday night game. Jalen Hurts off the injury report altogether. Good for him. I don't think he's not injured. I think he's still injured, but off the injury report, so that's a good sign. For the beyond that, I think everyone else, Lane Johnson's a little bit of a concern on the offensive line, but shouldn't be a limiting factor for the pieces you want to play. Cincinnati Bengals, they'll be down 2 starting offensive linemen now. Lyle Collins had already been out with a knee injury. Now this past game, Jonah Williams, the left tackle, suffered a dislocated knee. He'll be out, so there'll be a diminished offensive line. All the skill players are practicing, though, this week. Shouldn't be an issue there. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen working fully, Isaiah McKenzie working fully. Could get Jamison Crowder back this week. Maybe, he'll replace Cole Beasley. I don't know. They got a lot of options there. John Brown, a lot of low-end options there in this offense for the Buffalo Bills. And the rematch of the game we were all waiting for. I thought it was going to be the game of the week a couple weeks back when Damar Hamlin was injured and had the cardiac arrest and left the field of play and canceled the game. Dallas and San Francisco. San Francisco looks like everyone will be good to go. Juwan Jennings a little bit beat up, it seems. But Christian McCaffrey off the injury report for the first time in a while. So practicing fully already. Can't remember the last time I saw him practice on a Wednesday fully for San Francisco anyway. Beyond that, I think everyone else there is fairly healthy. For the Dallas Cowboys, haven't seen any injury issues or no. You saw Micah Parsons limping around quite a bit. You saw Brett Maher unable to kick field goals. That's a worry. They saw there are extra points. They signed Tristan Vizcaino, kind of an itinerant guy. He's been around a little bit and had some success. They signed him to the practice squad. My guess is they'll sit around and Kappa is not back, Scott. That's also another piece that's missing. So, hello, Andrea. Hope everyone's well. The thing with the kicker, I'm sure they'll have Brett Maher, kicking a bunch in practice, and whatever level of confidence they can gain in him, they'll either go with him. Mike McCarthy seems to be intent on going with him. Jerry Jones seemed to be intent on going with him until he wasn't, which was today when they added Vizcaino to the practice squad. So we'll see what's going on there. Some really great games this past week. If you missed all the action, we can kind of just touch on some of that. The Seattle Seahawks made a game of it against the 49ers. Geno Smith threw a couple touchdowns, threw both of them to DK Metcalf. It was a fantastic game for Metcalf. Kind of quiet for Tyler Lockett. Ended up with 39 yards, but still caught 6 passes. Kenneth Walker had a touchdown as well, so kind of saved your game. But the 49ers, Brock Purdy, this kid is on fire. I keep saying if you're investing in him, you're investing in the supporting cast more so than you're investing in the quarterback. I think now we should probably say you're investing in the quarterback a little bit. 3 touchdowns, 332 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Deebo Samuel, who is back, by the way, looked very good. Showed his tremendous upside there. Not just the 6 catches, 133 yards. It's 22 yards a catch, people. Had the touchdown. but also ran 3 times for 32 yards, a 10-yard per carry average. McCaffrey was on fire, 15 carries, 119 yards. Also had some catches, 2 of them for 17 yards and a touchdown there as well. So Elijah Mitchell caught a touchdown, short touchdown pass. So plenty to like in that game. For the you just kind of run through them. The Ravens and Bengals. It was kind of a nondescript game, I thought, for the Bengals for the most part. I mean, Jamar Chase notwithstanding, 9 catches, 84 yards, 1 touchdown. The target share has been phenomenal for him. Not so much for T. Higgins. I want to say down the stretch here, it's been like a 30+%, almost 35% target share for Jamar Chase since his return from injury. T. Higgins has been down in the low 20s, so quite a disparity there. Hayden Hurst, so close to a touchdown. Joe Mixon shut down in this game against the Ravens, 11 carries, 39 yards. So hopefully he can rebound a little bit. But with the offensive line issues, you have to wonder a little bit, right? Hello, John Pusek. Do I think Hurts will run? If not, will the Giants win, Bob, other than the Chiefs, who are the most confident? So I guess the Chiefs I'm pretty confident in. I'm pretty confident. So I have the Bills going to the Super Bowl. So I guess I'm fairly confident in the Bills going past Cincinnati. Cincinnati's going to have to do a little more on offense this week. But Buffalo's beatable, right? Eminently beatable. We saw that Miami staying in the game, and we'll talk about that a little bit. I do think, John, that I don't know why you put Hurts out there if you don't want to have him run, right? I mean, you can't just make him a pocket passer. That's not his thing. So I do expect him to run some, and like I don't see the Giants. I don't see the Giants winning, but the Giants are playing damn good football, right? It's hard to be dismissive of them. Daniel Jones, great game against Minnesota. Not a great defense, right? So we should probably take that into account. But the pieces around him have been playing lights out. Saquon Barkley in particular, last few games. So it's like not an impossibility, but not my anticipated outcome. I think we're going to have San Francisco I think the 49ers are going to beat Dallas. And so it'll be San Francisco against Philadelphia. I think San Francisco goes to the Super Bowl. I think Kansas City and Buffalo move on. And I think Buffalo goes to the Super Bowl. That's kind of where I'm at. Where are you guys at? Andrea, predictions. Scott, predictions. John, predictions, please. By the way, I'm Bob Harris. I didn't start with that part. Maybe you just showed up and you don't know who the hell I am and going, who is this guy just sitting here talking like he knows things? I know a couple things. I know that I'm Bob Harris. I work for footballdiehards.com. You can go to our website, check out all our information there. Have plenty of postseason stuff for you to deal with, including a lot of DFS information. The columns will start going up tomorrow on that. So get in on the fun. Check that out. You can also hear me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, the Football Diehards program. I'm told it's very good. I enjoy it immensely. Mike Dempsey and myself. You can catch us every Monday, Thursday, and Friday, and this week will be no different. We'll be on from 10 until midnight, Thursday and Friday. I know we have a guest lined up for Thursday right now, Marcus Mosher from USA Today. Great fantasy mind as well. Does a Locked On Cowboys podcast. Really just a great all-around smart guy. And we'll have some DFS talk. We'll have DFS live stream tomorrow night. Or not tomorrow night. It's Wednesday. I'm like pushing a day ahead, everybody. I apologize for this. Today is Wednesday. On Friday, we'll have the DFS live stream show with Jamie Calandro and Eric Romoff. And they've been doing great work all season long. They'll cover that. And Eric may join us Friday night on the radio program. Jamie will join us Saturday on the radio program. Saturday show, 3 to 5 p.m. Dempsey's away covering the Jaguars, and he's very happy about that. So it'll be Michael Fabiano sitting in the Dempsey spot while I host the program. So we'll have a good time, talk a little DFS, talk about all these matchups again. Andrea likes the Bills in San Francisco, as I do. Scott Kobe, Bills and Niners with me. John, he likes all that, except I think it's fair to say the Cincinnati Buffalo game is a true toss-up. I think that is a fair assessment. Based on look, Buffalo, you cannot turn the football over. Everybody, Jacksonville, you cannot turn the football over, right? This is it's winning time, people. Hold on to the football, protect it, make smart plays. And I think maybe they'll dial that back a little bit. There was a few plays where I thought the Bills were a little more aggressive than they needed to be when they shouldn't have been. And maybe Ken Dorsey will dial that back. A couple passes to Gabe Davis. By the way, Playoff Gabe is back. You guys know, if you've been coming around and listening to the live streams, I'm like, kind of lukewarm on Gabe Davis. Not lukewarm on playoff Gabe Davis. He's up in that 30% target share. Look, I'm still playing the hell out of. By the way, John sees KC and Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. I mean, a perfectly defensible position. Scott hit for 200 in DFS last weekend with a tilt to the Giants. Yep, I came close. Like, what piece was I missing? I had some good pieces. Oh, I went with Richie James instead of Isaiah Hodgins, who's I've been going with all along, right? I've been locked in on Hodgins. This past week, the James was a little cheaper, and I needed Hayden Hurst to get a touchdown, but you know how it is. So I look, going back to the Buffalo game, I just thought, a little bit of an outlier there with Josh Allen, turning the ball over. Miami keeping themselves in the game. Stephon Diggs, huge game. I'm expecting another solid game from him. Gabe Davis, huge game, including the touchdown. 6 catches, 113 yards. Diggs had 7 for 114, so good on them. And then after that, I think all these pieces, Khalil Shakir, Cole Beasley was in the mix. Dawson Knox, touchdown for 4 or 5 straight games. Beasley caught a touchdown as well as made a bad play. I just think there's plenty of pieces. You can invest, especially if you're playing in tournaments, in the piece of your choice, not named Diggs or Allen, and stack them with Diggs and Allen if you so desire. I'm not keen on the running backs. James Cook did get a touchdown in this game, so good for him. We'll see what he does against the Bengals. The running backs there are a little dicey. In that whole game, I'm not really keen on the running backs. I'll probably be mining the running backs elsewhere. Also, the Giants, let's talk about that a little bit. Daniel Jones was phenomenal. 302 yards, 2 touchdowns. Passing, ran for 78 yards. Boy. This week, Jalen Hurts is right up there. But him, Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, these are the guys with the rushing equity in this week's in the passing matchups. Good stuff there. Saquon Barkley played reasonably well. Didn't have a huge game, in terms of yardage, but had a huge game in terms of finding the end zone. Scored a couple of times on the ground. We had a Daniel Bellinger sighting in the end zone. Imagine that. And Isaiah Hodgins, man, 8 catches, 105 yards. The Isaiah Hodgins story is fantastic, right? I think it's, he's a guy that Brian Dable and Joe Shane, the GM there, are very familiar with from their time at Buffalo. And he was about to sign back with the Bills practice squad when the Giants called him up and said, hey, we'll sign you to the regular roster. He's been a revelation. That just goes to show sometimes opportunity and understanding of an offense and a little faith from a coaching staff and management can do wonders for a guy. He's been on point since his arrival. John, I was surprised to see how much scoring happened last week. Will this week be similar? Can we expect Jacksonville or Dallas to explode again? Dallas less so, but Jacksonville, sure. I was looking at the over-unders on these games. What was the Jacksonville? I want to say 50 points. So Jacksonville and Kansas City, 52 points. Kansas City, Buffalo, 50 points. Giants, Eagles, 47 points. Hell, the Giants almost got that by themselves last time. Cowboys, 49ers, 45.5 points. So yeah, I do think a lot of points will be scored. And look, you can score on San Francisco, right? It's a tough defense and hard to run against. The Ball Hawks, have a good number of interceptions. I want to say they're tied for the league lead with Pittsburgh in the regular season. So a lot to like there, but also they can be had, says DK Metcalf. They can beat them. And Dallas has the downfield weapons to beat people, right? We saw that against Tampa Bay, whether it's CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Noah Brown. Yeah, I added Noah Brown. Michael Gallup had the touchdown in this one. T.Y. Hilton looks like he has fresh legs. So, the Cowboys have the weapons. Do we get another game, a similar game to Dak, right? That's the question. Is Dak going to come up and deliver to the degree he did in that one? So, and not turn the ball over, right? That'll be a key as well. Just to finish out on that Dallas Tampa Bay game, look, the Jaguars, I should hit on that one as well. That was a fantastic game, right? Trevor Lawrence, 5 turnovers first half, ended up 4 touchdown passes. Travis Etienne had a big game, 20 carries, 109 yards. Against a matchup, he should have had a lot of yards, right? So, The Chargers offense has struggled, and we can talk about the Chargers if you want to talk about the non-firing of Brandon Staley, who I don't think ever was going to get fired. Beyond that, though, getting back on point, Evan Ingram, 7 catches. Like, is there a tight end not named Travis Kelce you would rather play this week? Tell me who it is if it is so. He had a touchdown. Christian Kirk had a touchdown on 8 catches, 14 targets. Zay Jones had a touchdown, 8 catches on 13 targets. Marvin Jones, 3 catches on 6 targets. He also caught a touchdown. Touchdowns for everybody. So a lot to like about this offense. And, of course, the Dallas offense, as mentioned, Dak Prescott on point in this game. Threw 4 touchdowns himself, ran one in. So great game for him. 2 touchdowns to Dalton Schultz, another great game for him. CeeDee Lamb, 68 yards, but a touchdown on 4 catches. Michael Gallup had a touchdown. A lot to like about the Cowboys, except for Brett Maher. So that'll bring us up to date. If you have questions, I think interesting question I see. Let me read through some of the comments and see where we're at. Can you talk about the Bills-Bengals game and how I see the game playing out? Is it just me or both teams struggling to run the ball? Both teams are struggling to run the ball. So I think Jamar Chase is, to me, a reliable piece. I think he'll be very busy. The target share, as I mentioned earlier, has been phenomenal, well ahead of T. Higgins. But I'm just not thrilled with this offense right now. Like, Higgins has been a little off his game. Mixon's been a little off his game. The offensive line issues are a concern. Bills pass rush is nothing to, we've seen better. But there's still some pieces there that can get the job done, and especially with a weak as an offensive line, it could be a problem. Be an emotional game, of course, for both teams after the last game was canceled and the circumstances under which it was canceled. So I think the Bills win this one. I mean, anytime you're playing with against Joe Burrow, playing with Jamar Chase, there's a puncher's chance there. I just think Buffalo has too much, right? In terms of weapons down the field, Josh Allen playing great when he's not turning the ball over. The rushing equity he brings to the table. It's just hard for me to pick against him this week. So I think a pretty, maybe not an easy win, but a pretty solid win for the Buffalo Bills. Andrea. We'll talk some redraft. Kadarius Toney is a big part of the KC offense this weekend. Kadarius Toney will be in a number of my DFS lineups for sure. I think of the Chiefs not named, I like a lot of Chiefs too. We'll talk, by the way, Chiefs and Eagles both coming off the bye, well rested. I mentioned both pretty healthy. But Toney looks fantastic, and they're figuring out ways to scheme him up. So I will be dabbling in that. Of all the receiving assets there, not named Travis Kelce, Kadarius Toney's the one I'll be the most interested in. I think the last time these two teams played, Juju suffered a concussion in that game. Marquez Valdes-Scantling can get a little something done. But it's the running backs here that I think are, more interesting than the receiving core, generally speaking. I think Isaiah Pacheco could have a solid game. Jerick McKinnon's been on a tear. I think his usage, especially in PPR formats, make him an easy play for me. Scott Kobe likes Dalton Schultz over Ingram because Kansas City can deal with Ingram pretty well. It's true. What did they do last game? Did Ingram not play well in the last game? I have to look it up. I had it up. I think I have this dialed in, and I don't. So numbers in that last one were what? Ingram, did he disappear in that game? He did. He disappeared. He was a non-factor. Didn't do a damn thing. He's been on a bit of a roll, though, Scott. I mean, I think the thing for me about Ingram is just the last month of the season, he's outproduced Travis Kelce over the last month of the season, or he did over the last month of the season. And just on the whole, I mean, ended as tight end 5. I think, the price differential between Travis Kelce and everyone else makes everyone else an option for me. And Ingram will be one of them. I guess last 2 games haven't been as great for Ingram, but that's stretched from week 13, week 14, 15, 16. Man, he looked great, and he's pretty capable. But I think Travis Kelce is obviously the tight end of choice here. Back to my screen. Hey, Andy Reid off a bye is pretty automatic. This is maybe the big factor. I heard someone talking about it today. He keeps a big pile of index cards on his desk with plays, and he's working out some ways to get in there. Hello, Bob. Thanks for coming in. Welcome to the chat. So yeah, I guess San Francisco. I mean, it's not like they're super easy to throw against. I think the perception is they're easy to throw against because it's easier to throw against them than run against them. So, but it's not easy to do either. What about Knox? I think Knox is going to be one of the better cheap plays too, right? He's on a touchdown roll, so you could make a pretty good argument there, Andrea. So I think if anyone else is in the chat, by the way, if you're here, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe to this channel. Again, Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, we'll have the DFS lineup show with Jamie and Eric. They do great work. I'll be back on Saturday early again, a little earlier in the day because I got the radio early and the game started. So we'll take care of it. We'll take care of everything. It is Gabe Davis o'clock. Again, you might have just tuned in, but I kind of mentioned it. I'm lukewarm at best on Gabe Davis during the season. I felt like we all kind of were, well, not me, but you all. No, not you all. I think fantasy managers in general were overpaying for him based on that huge performance in the playoff game. We haven't seen much of that, but it's getting better down the stretch. And I know Dwayne McFarland over at Fantasy Life had some numbers up, and let me bring them up and kind of lay them out. I mean, it's been really good, right? Davis has target shares of 24, 32, and 24% over the last 3 games. Came up with the top 5 wide receiver performance last week. He's capable of that. He had a similar run at one point in the middle of the season, but it's been up or down. There was too many single-digit games during the season for me, but at this point where you're getting into the postseason, it's a limited pool. It's hard for me to go against Gabe Davis, especially given the trend in the target shares. His average depth of target has risen as well over the last 4 games. He's gone from 17 yards to over 21 yards. So it's been pretty good. So yes, to the short version of that, the short answer to that question, Gabe Davis o'clock. Maybe Gabe Davis 30. Do you have a guy flying under the radar that can come up big other than Tony? I mean, I think any week I could play Isaiah Hodgins. I think we all know Boston Scott's history against the New York Giants tends to be a scoring threat, right? Kind of a thing there. Those would be the ones I'm looking at. I don't want to get into like Samaje Perine, who kind of was evaporated last week, and nobody did well for the Bengals in the backfield. But I think those Giants receivers, I know the coverages are tough, but I think Hodgins is a fair play, right? And so is James. And maybe because I said both of those guys, it'll be the Slayton week. So I think all reasonable plays. I think any Bill. I mean, throwing a dart at any Buffalo Bill seems like not totally unreasonable. Whether it's one of the running backs who, if I was tossing darts at this, it would be at James Cook and maybe less so at Devin Singletary, but he's had big games as well. I think Dawson Knox, as Andrea mentioned, is a pretty good kind of outlier among the tight ends. It's another pretty good tight ends week. So, who else? I was thinking about Marvin Jones, talking to Dempsey about him today. We're not as keen on him. Dempsey isn't it either. So I think Zay Jones, and who's not like a flyer kind of play. I think those are my flyers more. I mean, you can always take a chance on, on some of the spare tight ends on any of these teams. Well, on Dallas, I think Dallas, the Giants, you could. Go with those kind of the outlier tight ends. I think are reasonable plays. Not San Francisco's, but I want to say Bellinger, of course. Lawrence Cager, probably not. But also in Kansas City, those tight ends get a little something done, as well. So something to be said for them. Goddard's a name we have not mentioned here, but I think he's a pretty viable tight end as well. Andrea likes Cook. So I guess Scott, if I had to pick one, that I think is under the radar, it would be Jason Myers got a kicking contract. It would not be Brett Maher. No, it would probably be Boston Scott, who just seems to have a nose for the end zone in these circumstances. Just generally speaking, running down the rankings at quarterback is pretty easy for me. I'll just run down the top as we see him here. It's easily Josh Allen. Just the pieces around him, the rushing equity make it hard to go against him. Patrick Mahomes over Jalen Hurts. We have Dak Prescott over Joe Burrow. I think that's where kind of the dividing line is. Followed by that duo, followed up by Purdy, then Lawrence, and Daniel Jones. And again, Daniel Jones might give you as much rushing value as Hurts and Allen any given week. Running backs, top plays for me: Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. I like Jerick McKinnon a lot. Have him ahead of Joe Mixon and Travis Etienne and Miles Sanders, and Tony Pollard. So I think those are any of those guys could surprise. And Miles Sanders, could surprise as well. Needs to get a hold of the football. I like Isaiah Pacheco as well inside the top 10 along with James Cook. So that kind of rounds it out. But Travis Etienne needs to break off some long plays there for us. Yes, more kicker news coming in than I can bear. Jason Myers of the Seattle Seahawks. Thank you, Bob. Yes, I am leaning to top-heavy guys. I think I'm trying to find ways, Scott, to get is there a way I can get Chase and Diggs, right? And that's going to mean some cheap plays in some of the other teams. And so, yes, I am leaning top-heavy. Ayuk or Debo this weekend? I like Debo. I think, just what we saw last week is just a reminder of what he's capable of with the football in his hands. He's a dangerous man. And Brandon Ayuk is too, but I just think Debo, they're back to using him in various ways. He had the 3 carries, so it looks pretty good to me there. I'll stick with that. Kind of laid out my ETN thoughts. I wish he would. I don't think he'll get the volume he got last week right against the Chargers. I think it'll be a little less volume, and he hasn't been as big a factor in the receiving game. So assuming game script kind of plays out where the Chiefs, rack up some points and force the Jaguars to keep up, I might dial back on ETN a little bit. Scott needs to get into Diehards Dynasty League, or as we call it, the Mike Dempsey Invitational. Just kidding. Jeff Mans calls it that. Diehards Dynasty League is intense and deep, and the struggle is real. But if we get an opening, Scott, and you want to take on an orphan, I'll make sure that it happens. It is a tough league. I wanted to talk a little bit, if you guys have more questions about this week's matchups, go ahead and get into them. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of players who let us down this year and start laying the baseline for players maybe we're going to want, to be investing in hopes we get a discount. I love discounts. I like getting players cheap. And so I was just kind of starting to make up my list a little bit here and lay it out. And I'm hoping you guys can chip in with some picks of your own that help me expand my list. A quarterback. Look, I think you could say Justin Herbert was a disappointment. You're not going to be paying the same price this year that you paid last year. And if you've been coming around watching these live streams, I kind of feel like I'm going to start trying to, not totally, but put a little more emphasis on the passers and the pass catchers than I have been on running backs, because that's the direction the NFL's taken. And I think it's probably a wise course of action when the NFL tells you what matters to them through the resources they spend. It might be a good idea to pay attention to it. So I will. So I'll be, and I don't think you have to go and get a quarterback super early, right? You just don't. Because there are going to be good ones. There always are throughout the draft. But there's some that I'm thinking I'm going to get a discount on. I think Justin Herbert, who is going, maybe pretty much second, third, fourth quarterback, it's definitely in the top 5. I think maybe he slips down a little bit. I'll be watching and waiting for that. Guy has more passing yards over his first 3 seasons than anyone else has ever had. And they are going to change offensive coordinators. The key design, they fired their quarterback coach, Shane Day, as well as Joe Lombardi. So they will find a coordinator, and there will be many eager to work with Justin Herbert for the obvious reasons. He's fantastic. Great arm, tough kid. Played through some injuries of his own and some to his key pieces. So he'll be one that I'm hoping to get a discount on. I know we'll get a discount on Aaron Rodgers. Had a horrible fantasy season, rarely hit the 20-point mark. Lamar Jackson, it'll be interesting to see how far down he drops. I think people will still invest. People people will still be paying up. So I might be looking to pivot to some of these guys that are falling down. I think the one, yes, the new offensive coordinator, and that's maybe something you'll want to wait and see on. But I think I think that'll be an emphasis for them. Brandon Staley basically said today when in explaining the hire that they've got to get this offense to a different level. They think there's a lot of room to grow, and they're right. So I do think that this will be a priority, is getting Justin Herbert on track. And remember, man, that rib injury he had was painful. Still made some great throws in spite of it. The lack of Mike Williams and/or Keenan Allen at various points of the season make it interesting. Justin Flores has a question. Plays fantasy football, plays in a dynasty league, just traded Tyler Lockett plus Brandon Cooks for Gabe Davis and Hunter Renfrow. I would not rate this trade highly. I'm way higher on Tyler Lockett than either of those pieces. We'll see. I mean, I guess, Gabe Davis, I think, is kind of overvalued, or his season-long price has been overvalued. I like the Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks side. Brandon Cooks doesn't want to play for the Texans. I don't know if they'll have a quarterback. He's been productive no matter what. I like that side of it better. I would not have traded off Tyler Lockett and Brandon Cooks. Sounds like they're going to keep Geno Smith. Gabe Davis has huge upside. Hunter Renfrow can be solid. It's a mystery at quarterback. Is it going to be Tom Brady? If it's Tom Brady, does he like his slot receivers? Yes. But also Devontae Adams and I think, Waller are going to be limiting factors there overall. I mean, I think the days of Hunter Renfrow being a 100-catch guy are probably gone. So don't mean to rain on your parade there, Justin, and not my intention to do that, but I just prefer I prefer the Tyler Lockett a lot. I mean, if they're going to keep Geno Smith, which it sounds like they're working on a contract already, and maybe this year for Geno is a magic year, right? That is possible as well. Russell Wilson is on my list, Scott Kobe. In my redraft leagues, you see more of B's going in the first round. I see more I think we'll see more receivers going in the first round than we have recently. I think we'll see. I think a lot of people are going to be thinking the way I'm thinking, that the wide receivers are safer picks, right? There's running backs like you're going to see Christian McCaffrey, you're going to see Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler remains a prospect for regression for the same reason he did this year. He just didn't regress, right? Touchdowns are difficult to predict, and he still had a ton of them, right? Jonathan Taylor, I think, will come at a discount. Let's stick with the quarterbacks real quickly. Russell Wilson is one that Scott mentioned. I think is going to be a huge discount. Will it be worth it? I don't know. We'll see who the coach is, right? I think that's going to be a big determining factor. But he's definitely on my list. So is Matt Stafford. Injuries I tend to not, take into account here, but I don't think Stafford was great, necessarily before the injury. But I do like that Sean McVay's back. Cooper Kupp will be back. Maybe Allen Robinson figures things out in his second year. So I do like that. The disappointing running backs, start and end with, hello, Mr. Scampers. And thanks for your question, Justin. I appreciate it, man. I think it starts with Jonathan Taylor, who, I get it, he was hurt, but he wasn't great, beyond that, right? He had big week 1, and then after that, it was a bit of a struggle, and the weekly scoring was way down low. Thanks for coming, Andrea. We'll see you Saturday, hopefully. And DeAndre Swift. Those are the two that strike me as guys. DeAndre Swift's going to fall down to Jamal Williams pricing, right? It's going to be, and I'm going to be there for it. I'll jump in on that. I'll chase the talent at the right price. But man, we'll see how far he falls. And by the way, throw in some of your disappointments in there if they are differing from mine, or if you agree with some of mine. Be interested to hear what you have. Jonathan Taylor, though, to me is it's concerned. We'll see who the coach is there as well. I don't know if Nick Chubb does come at much of a discount, right? I think he's kind of been fairly priced. I thought last year was pretty cheap. But there is not a lot of receiving numbers for him. So maybe you get a little discount. I thought we got a little discount last year. I don't think we'll get one this year, Scott. But again, throw in yours if you have them. What do you guys think of DeAndre Swift? When will you be drafting him? It's going to be tough, man. Swift, Golf Boy is in on Swift. just such a disappointment. You're talking about a guy that people are drafting. I saw him go late in the first round, definitely early second. I thought Chubb was going way later. There were leagues where I saw Chubb not going to the third or fourth round. I thought, well, I'll outproduce that, and I'll draft him if he falls down there like crazy. Like crazy. Every chance I get. And we'll see. It wasn't a great year for Ezekiel Elliott, but it wasn't a horrible year. I think next year will be worse. I'll probably not be, in on him. Tony Pollard, you'll be paying for. Josh Jacobs, you'll be paying for. You will look at the injured players, Javonte Williams. I think Swift could be a fifth or sixth rounder. Could be always Mr. Damian Harris. I hate it when people pick on my cousins. Damian's a good man. He does his best. I think we may well see him on another team, though, right? So that might make a difference. But Swift, possibly a fifth or sixth rounder. Do you think some people might not be that keen on him? I mean, I think you could still draft the talent, but I don't know that I see them making a huge change to his workload. That, to me, is the concern. I mean, if they wanted to use him, why wouldn't they have used him? I feel like they think the appearances, the premise, you could make a strong argument that they view him, as a guy that needs to have limited touches, like the Cowboys talk about Tony Pollard. A certain number of snaps, they go beyond that, they feel like he's not as effective. I think the Lions are showing their hands in that regard. So we'll see if he can turn that around. But hopefully the discount is steep enough. Someone said fourth or fifth round. I mean, I'd like it to be a little cheaper. Fifth, sixth round, I'd like it to be a little cheaper. I don't know if it will be. Damian Harris, though, man, I just think his time may be up, and hopefully he moves on to a new team. Love all the Harrises. All the Harrises. Wide receivers. Does Aaron Jones get to round 3? I don't know. A lot of that's going to depend on what Aaron Rodgers is, right? But beyond the disappointment, which he was. It was a bad season for Aaron Rodgers. He had some good pieces around him. Is there reason to believe that Aaron Rodgers could be a lot better and that the entire offense could be better if Aaron Rodgers is? Yes, and that would include Aaron Jones, who they say will be back as well. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers is back. I would be less interested if Aaron Rodgers is not back. I don't know what the hell Jordan Love's going to be. Hard to say, right? We haven't seen enough. I would be buying some of these pieces if Aaron Rodgers comes back, expecting him to come back with a vengeance and get a little something done. Hopefully he spends an entire offseason. His complaints this season where he didn't have great chemistry with receivers. Well, why was that? Because he wasn't there. Aaron Rodgers, show up. Work with these guys. I get it. They had some injury issues. Christian Watson had some injury issues, but a lot of talent in this group, and including Aaron Jones. So I'm hoping for rebounds for all involved as long as Aaron Rodgers comes back. That's going to be the determining factor. I don't think we'll have to wait too long for that. I'm hoping. Allen Lazard was another player that kind of, for me, was a disappointment. I thought he might be a guy who could give you one of wide receiver 1 numbers on occasion. Here's the truth. He is not a take off the top guy. I thought he would be able to work off his, level of trust that Aaron Rodgers has him, and he does. Aaron Rodgers loves playing with him. He said that was one of the things. Lazard's future in Green Bay, uncertain. And so Rodgers said this week, he wants to see what the team has plans to do with some of their free agents, and Allen Lazard is one of them. I think Michael Pittman will slip a lot. It was a disappointing season. The Colts were a huge disappointment. What they do at quarterback will be a determining factor in some of these values. But Michael Pittman is a disappointment that I might be in on at the right price, right? And I think that's the thing about these guys. With Allen Lazard, I'll probably get off that. He's shown me, when you have players like Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs who show like they're more capable playmakers, there's always going to be a role for Lazard in an offense with Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers trusts him, has a relationship with him. Aaron Rodgers said that. He said, game is about relationships. I thought he would leverage, or Allen Lazard would leverage that relationship more this year than he did. So I'll dial back on the whole relationship notion. But where Allen Lazard is really good is in a confined area. When you get him like in the red zone, he's very good there. But he's not a guy who's going to run past people. Christian Watson is. And that's going to make him a bigger playmaker. Who else? Deontay Johnson didn't have a bad year, but I felt like there was not a lot of high end there. I think maybe we'll be getting a discount on him. We'll be getting a discount on Cortland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy, probably not. There you go. Golf Boy hit it right when I hit it. I don't know how delayed what I'm saying is from the chat, but just as I said the word Sutton, Golf Boy put him in there, and I agree. I think he's a player I'll hope to gain a lot of shares of at the right price. And don't forget about, like Mike Evans, just ready to say that. And that'll be, some of that'll be Tom Brady dependent. I mean, I think if Tom Brady goes away, all these pieces will slide there, maybe more than they should. I think Chris Godwin maybe has the skill set to continue producing regardless of the quarterback, at least assuming they have someone serviceable. And it's a lesson we should have learned this year, right? Here's a lesson that I learned. Where was DK Metcalf going in drafts? Where was Tyler Lockett going in drafts? Where was Amari Cooper going in drafts? Fantasy managers, we have a tendency to do this. I do this, right? You think, wow, this is not an ideal quarterback situation. Somehow in my head that turns into he doesn't have a quarterback. He can't possibly play. And the draft values, the ADPs of guys like Metcalf, Cooper, and Lockett demonstrated that. It's not like they don't have a quarterback. They just don't have an ideal quarterback. They're still really good players for the right price. So Mike Evans would be on that list as a really good player, whether he has a quarterback or not. This was definitely a down year, but the catches were there, the yardage was there. Just the touchdowns weren't there. And I think some of that's on Tom Brady, who you could say was a disappointment at quarterback. He, ended up winning some games, but his touchdown total was low, and that reflected on Evans for sure. Mr. Scampers, I'm going to get hurt by DJ Moore at least one more season. I will too. I think he's such a great player, such a consistently good player. So I will stand with you, Mr. Scampers, on DJ Moore, on the talent. Hopefully, we'll see what happens there. I mean, they're talking to some interesting coaching names. We'll see. The first domino to fall has to be Sean Payton, and we'll all be chasing that, potential offense, assuming he lands somewhere with a quarterback. So, and I don't know if Carolina has that or not. Sam Darnold was serviceable. What do you think, Scampers, of Sam Darnold? Did he win you over at the end just because he threw the ball out to DJ Moore? Maybe did me a little bit. I think he looked really good. I think the regular season finale was horrible, though. It looked like the Sam Darnold of old, like seeing ghost Sam Darnold. Scott Kobe wants to know if Leftwich is out in Tampa Bay as their OC, or is he staying? So the initial reporting from like Pewter Report and people on the ground there that are covered the team closely, I have a lot of faith in the people at Pewter Report. Scott Reynolds, I think, reported it. That he was going to be fired and they were going to do it in the middle of the season and decided to stick it out. How the mighty have fallen. So Todd Bowles said yesterday that decision hasn't been made yet. So probably it has. So we'll see. I don't know that he's out yet or not. My guess is yes. I mean, the Pewter Report guys are really, they've been doing this a long time. So I'll go ahead and assume that something's going on. But the longer it takes, that is interesting. I thought, they thought it would happen shortly after the game, and it did not. So there's that. Here's the question of the hour. Fernando Zarco wants to know, where is Lamar going? I think Lamar is going nowhere. Nowhere fast, that's for sure. So the Ravens obviously would like to get a long-term deal done or be beneficial for their cap. They do not want to pay him a fully guaranteed contract. I don't think they will. But look, we saw Kyler Murray didn't get a fully guaranteed contract. Not everyone after Deshaun Watson is going to get a fully guaranteed contract. Sorry, kids. And by kids, I mean you quarterbacks out there. And so, this sounds like it's a little contentious. The part we see is always a little contentious, right? The public negotiations. The thing about Lamar that's a concern is he doesn't have an agent, so he's doing his own negotiating. So maybe the part we're hearing from him is true. He seems a little unhappy. His Instagram post the other day, was kind of cryptically, come on, man, pay up. We'll see if they do. I mean, that's the question for me. But I don't know who else is going to, maximize his talents. The Ravens are all in terms of the pieces they put around him, the design of their offense, everything. Lamar could be franchised. He could be non-exclusive franchised. He could be transition tagged. Like, if you're another team out there, you want to pay a couple first-round picks and what you have to pay Lamar, to get him, and then you have to change your whole team or the makeup of your whole team or at least redesign your offense to maximize his abilities. I mean, that seems like a big haul, right? So I do think he'll be back, whether it's on a long-term deal or whether he's tagged. That's where I'm at right now, and hopefully that doesn't change because they are built for him, right? This is the team that's built for him. The Falcons are one that is heard of dollar bill mentions here. The Falcons, I've heard this one. I've also heard that the Falcons are maybe a little more all in on Desmond Ridder than the rest of us. So we'll see. What if the Falcons don't, or the Giants don't get a deal done with Vanilla Vic? Daniel Jones hits the market. I don't think he will. I think they'll get something done. But Lamar to the Falcons has been one that's talked about. And I mean, I get why it kind of makes sense, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Lamar stays where he is. Harbaugh seems pissed. He does seem pissed. Melissa Stark will confirm that. Right? Was that a great interview? A great 20 seconds of television of Jim Harbaugh pretending to smile as he wanted to get angry. Scott thinks Greg Roman needs to be out as offensive coordinator in Baltimore. I don't know that he does. Honestly, I think if Lamar Jackson's back, I would not get rid of Greg Roman because he's gotten the most out of these kind of quarterbacks over the course of time. This year was not great. By the way, Matt Canada is sticking around in Pittsburgh. If Matt Canada is sticking around, I don't think Greg Roman's going anywhere. You guys remember, Greg Roman was a guy that was the offensive coordinator in San Francisco when Colin Kaepernick was doing the multi, role kind of thing where he was running a lot, throwing. So, and he was also in Buffalo. So, I mean, he's done a lot of. He has a pretty strong history, Greg Roman, of maximizing the value of these guys. So, I don't know if maybe he needs to be out, but I don't know if they have a ready replacement for him. Is Tom Brady going to retire? I personally don't think so yet, says Fernando. I personally agree with you. I don't think so yet either. I think he wants to try one more time. I don't know if you saw a big piece on ESPN this week that kind of all of their insiders and beat writers kind of discussed the possibilities, and there are a few. The Raiders are the one. The Raiders are the one that people mention a lot. The connection to Josh McDaniel and the fact that Brady was they were after him. They pursued him in the initial free agency, right? The Miami Dolphins are another one. What happened with Tua? I mean, they say they're all in on Tua. Are they all in on Tua? Can they afford to be? I think that's a big question that we'll see an answer to at some point as well. How about the New York Jets? Would that be the biggest flex of them all, going to the Jets and beating the Patriots in the division? I think you would like that. San Francisco, little talk there. A little discussion here. Okay. News. The news comes in. I'm not looking at my watch. I'm looking at the news, people. Same thing. Do the Steelers have a great future with their roster? I don't know if it's a great future, honestly. I mean, I think they've got a solid, a quarterback with some potential. They've got a good running back. They need to get this offense dialed in. I mentioned a few minutes ago, Matt Canada returns as offensive coordinator, so that's a little worrisome. Or a little worrisome if you're a Steeler fan. I think he can be okay. I don't know if Brady makes sense for anybody. And Brady could be back with Tampa Bay. To me, Tampa Bay still makes the most sense. Their offensive line is going to be better, be healthier, hopefully next year. Maybe they keep Leftwich around, give it one more shot. I don't know. To me, don't write off Tampa Bay just yet. Do I think Brian Flores stays with Pittsburgh? I don't know. The new GM in Arizona seems to have a connection to him from their time together in Minnesota. He may get a job. Brian Flores may get a job. I don't think Brian Flores was horrible in Miami. I thought he did a good enough job with what he had. So we'll see. So I don't know that he stays with Pittsburgh. Fernando, I wanted to get back to this question because I think it's a good one. We've talked about it here on this live stream before, but I think it's not changing. Who are the Niners rolling with? Purdy or Trey Lance? I think it depends on how far they go with Purdy, right? I mean, they went pretty far with Jimmy Garoppolo and still wanted to go with Trey Lance. So, I mean, but if they win the Super Bowl, I mean, how do you go away from a Super Bowl winning quarterback? I don't know if you guys saw, I think it was on Instagram or somewhere, Twitter, that Trey Lance, Rand Cawthorn, the executive, goes from San Francisco to Tennessee and kind of was there a cryptic kind of message from Trey Lance, take me with you, Rand Cawthorn. So we'll see, right? Tennessee has some issues, obviously. like Ryan Tannehill, the money says he's around this year, but that doesn't mean they have to play him. And I don't know if Malik Willis showed much, so could it be? So yeah, the 49ers, Purdy or Lance, it's going to be one of those two. I think it's going to depend on how far they go into these playoffs. If they make it to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl for sure. How do you pull a Super Bowl winning quarterback out after a hot finish like Purdy had? Sorry, Trey Lance. That's how it goes. Derek Carr's destination. So I think there's one where you could like look at a handful of teams. You know, the Jets seem like the most likely to me, but I don't know. You know, Derek Carr is a good quarterback who maybe will never be great. So maybe if you're a team who thinks we just need a really good quarterback, would he go back to Houston, or would his brother talk him out of it? So I think Houston's a possibility for any of these, you know, like Carr isn't going to be the sexy name out there, right? I mean, there are going to be other sexy names, Tom Brady, most notably. Do the Saints think they need a quarterback? Maybe so. So that's one to watch. Atlanta's one to watch. The Colts are one to watch. Could Miami be interested? I don't know. The Jets are obviously one to watch. There's, you know, I think there's a lot of teams that could use an upgraded quarterback, and Derek Carr would be an upgrade, right? So we'll see on that one. I think it's probably for me right now, the Jets are my favorite for him, unless Tom Brady wants to go there. Jonathan Taylor, Fernando says, was considered first overall pick in fantasy. What round do you think he lands in this year since he did not live up to expectations? Could he fall into the second? I don't know. It's possible. If I'm drafted, I'm probably avoiding. We talked a little bit about some of the disappointing players. Just throw out the last one on my list here because we talked about some of these other ones, the other positions. Kyle Pitts is the obvious one. I'm looking to buy Kyle Pitts. Tampa Bay for Carr makes sense too, by the way, if Tom Brady leaves. Totally. But Pitts is a guy that I'll be looking, you know, to take advantage of. Disappointed. I'll buy that talent at the cheap price if I can get him in dynasty leagues. You know, people invested first overall picks in him in some of these leagues. And, you know, I don't think the talent's gone away. Just they've got to figure out how the usage is. And so maybe they can do that this year. But Tampa Bay, yes, that's so I don't know. You know, Bryce Young, I mean, Chicago says they're not drafting a quarterback or isn't sure if I guess they said they're open to it. Will someone trade up? Would the Texans have to trade up to get that? I don't know. Maybe some of that has to depend on if the Texans have to pay compensation to the Saints for Sean Payton, right? Sean Payton's interviewing with everybody. Denver Broncos are on the list as well. So yeah, who would trade up, right? Because I think it would take a trade up. You know, the Bears are basically saying, you know, we'll consider it. We won't rule it out, but I think they're going to give Justin Fields a pretty good option. So someone's going to have to move up. Maybe it'll be the Texans. Maybe some of that depends on where some of these pieces like Derek Carr end up, etc. So it'll be a fun quarterback market this year. You know, we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do yet. We know there are openings. We know there are some teams with questions, right? Like, what does Miami do? How do you go into another season counting on Tua? They've said they are, right? And Chris Greer, the GM, said that he's at no more danger of having a concussion than anyone else. I don't know. The problem with some of this is the narrative around this, and I don't want to diminish the actual health implications of concussions, but you know, the optics of this, the outcry if you try and put a guy back in after he's had a concussion, not the same game, but you know, like this is going to be tricky for all of us, people. I don't know if we're going to get to the point where we're all drafting team quarterbacks, but this could get tricky at some of the onesie positions when they start paying the really close attention to the concussions. They should. I mean, you know, it's part of the game for us, and we'll have to adapt and overcome. But Tua is an immediate pressing concern, I think, for Miami. Do they really believe that he's at no more risk than anybody else of getting a concussion? I don't know. Raiders should go for Bryce Young as a Bills fan. Justin Fields' future is the future. I think I agree with this, Fernando. I think you are correct. He is the future and isn't surrounded by the right pieces for him to succeed. But I'd like to see some progression as a passer. Hopefully we do. If Carolina has a first rounder, could you see them moving the number one spot and trading with the Bears? I could see the Carolina Panthers being super aggressive, right? mean, David Tepper did not get to be the richest owner in the NFL by being timid or meek or not pushy or not, I think he'll assert himself both in terms of getting a coach and in terms of getting a quarterback. That totally agree with that, Scott. So yes, I could see that 100%. See the Patriots, they're going to find an offensive coordinator. A lot of coordinator moves going on, a lot of changes of offenses that we'll see next year. All right, everybody, I got a few more minutes for a few more questions if you have them. If not, I will be back Saturday. It's Wednesday now. I'm like all confused on days this week. My schedule gets thrown into disarray, right? During the season, it's so regimented. I have things every day. I know what every minute of every day is I'm going to be doing all season long. Now I get to the point where I'm not doing all those things. I have a little bit of free time. It gets me confused. I don't even know I don't know what day it is. Damn it. It's Wednesday, people. So Friday night, DFS lineup show with Jamie Calandro and Eric Romoff. It'll be great. Fantastic stuff by them always. Tomorrow night, football diehards at 10 p.m. We'll go until midnight. Marcus Mosher will join us from USA Today. Mike Dempsey, myself. Friday night, might try to get Eric on because Jamie will be on with us Saturday. Friday night, it will be 10 to midnight as well with me and Mike Dempsey on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Saturday, 3 to 5 with me and Michael Fabiano sitting in for Mike Dempsey. And Jamie will be on that show to talk a little DFS as well. And then we'll head into the championship week and see how it's going. Oh, yeah, the QB coach for the Patriots will be the OC. I don't know who will be the OC. Bill O'Brien will be the QB coach, or will it be Bill O'Brien? I know Keenan McCardle's in the mix. Interesting. Long time. Great wide receiver who kind of moved up in the ranks as a coach, has been coaching for the last few years. Be interesting to see. I know some of the past, guys from the past on that team are always big. So we'll see. It's going to be not Patricia, right? That's what we know for sure. They've already announced that. A lot of guys staying put. Ben Johnson staying put with the Lions. That's good news, I think. Right? Wants to see where they can take this in Detroit. I want to see where they can take this in Detroit. Nathaniel Hackett talking to the Jets I saw today. He's a good offensive coordinator. Once they trade for DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see. DeAndre Hopkins' future in Arizona up in the air. My guess is he'll be moving on. We'll see where. Giants? No, don't know if they can afford him. I don't know. We talked about this about a week ago. I'm not sure where he goes, right? I mean, the Giants make sense. Patriots make sense. Bears make sense. A lot of teams can use him. I still think he has some football left, so he'll draw some interest, but he'll have to redo his contract. I don't know how keen he is on that. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. Again, I will be back Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time right here on this Football Diehards YouTube channel. Hit the like button, hit the dislike button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Do all those things if you didn't already do that. D-Hop Ravens. God, I hope not dollar bill. Ravens where receivers go to die, it seems like. No offense. I mean, no disrespect to Lamar. He's a great passer. It just seems like receivers have bad luck there. I don't know. Anyway, go to footballdiehards.com, the website. Come back here on Friday night at 9 p.m. Listen to me on the radio. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you Saturday. Thanks for coming.